Väldigt välkommen i Spooky Straka podcastet. Amma finner frågor. The boys go bomb.
Welcome back, guys, to the Spooky Spectacular podcast. My name is Luis, and I am joined by my two mates.
Liam, I'm here.
I'm here too.
It's good. We got two Aussie fellas and one Spanish boy.
What is up? I'm not Spanish, but okay.
Oof, controversial.
Hey, Mori. Hi.
And you're joining us here on the Spooky Boiz podcast, Spooky Spectacular. And basically, every week we will be discussing a new horror film, international horror film from somewhere in the world. We try to watch obscure films and discuss them over the half an hour or so. Give our opinions and have a bit of a goof off on all the while. Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing an Icelandic film. This one's from 2009, and it's called the Reykjavik Whale Watching Massacre. So it's basically a story whereby it's a number of tourists from all over the world, German, French, American, Japanese, who go whale watching on this very old vessel in Iceland. And essentially a number of crazy whale hunters who have been basically barred by the government from participating in whale hunting have turned to killing people for sport. And so they basically take these people hostage, and there's all kinds of wacky, horrific nonsense. That's the crux of it. There's not a great deal to the plot. Yeah, we'll get into it. So we'll start with Liam. What was your general impression of this absolute ride?
Masterpiece.
Yeah, well, it was an absolute ride, that's to be sure. It was one of the most cooked movies I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's up there.
Like, to give a bit of context, the first scene, you're in a bar and there's this heavy metal band wearing gimp masks, and
yeah, I forgot about that actually.
Looked at my notes and then I remembered that was a thing. Yeah, and I've also got girl got shit on by a bird. Do you remember that? Right at the start.
I do not.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it opens up. Just a weird scene in a bar.
Well,
the girl's talking
well,
to
the
her.
first thing you see, even before that, right? There's this montage. It opens up.
Yeah,
and it's
the intro,
really
yeah.
it's super
About the
artsy.
whaling.
Exactly, the old whaling footage where it's trying to be like make itself seem kind of artsy and like serious. It's like, oh, this might actually be an interesting like commentary on, I don't know, whaling or something. And then it just descends into as Liam described, the gimps on stage and the bird shit. Like, I don't know. What did you think, Barry?
No, yeah, the intro is a bit, well, maybe misleading is the word, but yeah, nothing that what you would expect to, that you don't expect that it would evolve into, it evolves.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean,
it's a sharp right-hand turn.
The title kind of gives it away because it's a bit self-explanatory, but it's not in the way that you think. Like, it starts off pretty chill, like, okay, a scene in a bar, heavy metal, really heavy metal music in a bar. I've never seen it, but maybe in Iceland it's normal. Who knows?
Yeah, some weird Icelandic type vibe. The whole bar scenario was weird. So it's one girl. What was her name?
The blonde.
So there's Annette, who was one of the main characters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she's there with her friend, right? And their friend kind of hooks up with someone.
Yeah, with an older Icelandic fellow.
And then she leaves, and they're kind of like, she doesn't want her to go with him because they've got to get up early for their whale watching.
For their whale watching,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's when they separate that she gets shit on by a bird.
Yeah, she gets shit on. So I guess maybe this is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
To get shit on. Yeah, not very subtle.
Artful foreshadowing. Well, yeah, and I mean, so it's essentially Annette, who I'm not sure if she's Icelandic or where she was meant to be from. I actually almost think she might be Icelandic, but I don't know. Anyway, so there's her. There's basically a group of Japanese tourists as well. So there's an older gentleman and his wife who sort of play these kind of like rich kind of foreigners, tourists.
Like the girl has to catch a whale watching boat.
Yeah, but the boat's not there.
And
they're like, oh, and the Japanese folks who are there, they're there on time, of course. And there's a lot of very blatant, like, kind of stereotypes.
Yeah, we'll get into that. It's strong, the stereotype usage.
And they go hard early, like, sort of as each different group. There's no two groups that have the same ethnicity, and they're all just like, stick to themselves very much in a very like who came after the Japanese.
Yeah, well, so there's the man and his wife who are like the rich kind of tourists, and they got like an interpreter basically, whose name is Endo, and she's one of the main characters. There's also, I thought they were German, the three sort of middle-aged women, and then we've got basically an American girl, Mary Ann, who is like also a very central character. There's Leon. I can't honestly. This is something that comes up multiple times. His accent changes, I think, 10 times. I couldn't tell if he's meant to be like South London, if he's meant to be like US, like an American.
I thought he was US.
I thought he was US too.
Yeah. He said something, and it sounded like he was from South London, and I'm like, is this an act? I don't know. I wrote it down, but it seemed odd.
But yeah, this movie has a number of pretty questionable lines, such as when this Leon fella shows up, he's a black man, and the group of German ladies.
Yeah.
They go. They're all staring at him and they're like, "Ooh, a Black Panther."
Yeah, they use the term Black Panther.
It's like,
they pretty much talk about using him for sex, pretty much straight up. You can't understand them, but
they say that it's a trend now in Germany, like to leave the husband and go for Black Panthers, as they would call it.
So like this sets up the film immediately. You're like, all right, we're in for an absolute stereotype, racist, like inappropriate ride.
That scene is a bit. There's a lot to dissect in that scene also, where all the people come together, because you kind of get the relation in between the characters. That's a bit like, maybe something's not going as it should here.
There's also the French guy, Jean-Francois, who's also there. I believe he was drunk already.
Very drunk.
Very drunk.
Yeah. So it's pretty much French guy, American girl, Marianne, Leon, I think he's also American, the 3 Japanese tourists, the 3 German tourists, and then there's Annette. So she's like running to catch the boat, and everyone's sort of already boarded the boat, and she basically barely even makes it.
She jumps on and hurts her knee. They were pulling off. They could see her running. Yeah, they were already so late. I don't understand why they didn't just wait.
The line was like, I believe that the American girl was like, "Can't we wait for her?" And the sailor was like, "No, she's too late." And the boat hasn't even left. Like it's literally next to the dock. It's like,
they're pushed like half a meter off the port, and then she just jumps
late.
And lands on it, and then everyone claps her. I was like, what?
I mean, the jump was pretty sick, to be honest. He just. Like it's the kind of action you don't expect in that scene.
Kind of action. Some real like Mad Max Fury Road style.
Like she does a couple of backflips and just lands it perfectly.
A true set.
Well, not really, because she fucks up her knee a bit.
But the weird thing happened. So when Marianne, the American girl, when she showed up, she was being harassed by this disabled guy who was trying to sell.
That's correct.
In the harbor.
Yes. His name, the character's name, I believe, was Anton. He was meant to be an Icelandic guy. He kind of was like pretending to sell these like wooden whales, like to the tourists. But
and he kept saying the same thing, $6. That was it. He kept saying $6, and just following her really closely. And then one of the crew of the ship, when they got there, just like elbowed him in the face.
Yeah. So I think Bjorn, who was the sort of the ship hand, he also turns out to be a massive piece of shit. He just elbowed the guy in the face. But then it was revealed that Anton, the guy that was trying to sell the wooden whales, was faking it, and he said something along the lines of "Sayonara, shitheads," as the boat leaves, and it's like, it's bizarre. But I mean, they're trying to hint at some grand mystery, but it doesn't really ever come into play? Like, I don't know. It's revealed later, I suppose, his motivation, but it's very odd. But yeah, anyway, so essentially they go on this boat. Everyone's like bickering. There's a lot of like pretty intense stuff. Like the Japanese gentleman, he's basically saying a lot of really inappropriate stuff about his wife in English in front of the German women who understand him, and they're like, they hear him say stuff like "my ugly, stupid wife," and the German ladies are like, "Oh, Japanese men, they're not pigs." There's a lot of like just intense, like the characters are stereotypes, but they're also stereotyping each other, and it's just like, it's a lot. Like, I don't know.
And from the get-go, from the beginning, everyone's treating everyone else like shit all the time.
Absolutely. And then the thing that I think the number one like most concerning thing for me, this entire film, like there's all the racist idiocy and there's all the like, other crap, but then and the woman who arrived late to the boat, I'd say within the first 10-15 minutes, essentially she's lured under the boat by the by Bjorn, the guy that was helping out the sailor, the main sailor of this boat, and he just straight up tries to rape her, and it's like. It's the most bizarre thing. Yeah, he tries to show her his quarters, and then basically tries to rape her. He's interrupted mid-scene by the American girl Marianne, who does not give a singular shit. But the worst part is that like it's not even addressed. Like the rest of the film kind of just it's like this has happened to her, and then they just like it just is never spoken about, and it's like, why did you do that? Why would you show that in that film? Like it's insane. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I mean, yeah, there's other ways that you can set up a character to be a piece of shit other than luring someone into the back of the.
Sure, but I mean, even if they did that, like there was no consequence. Like there was no consequence really for her character or his character. It sort of like had a scene where a girl was raped, like on screen, and then didn't ever address it. Like it was insane. It was
just the weird, and like the American girl when she walked in, she did like she like shook her head at the
girl.
What's her name? Like she was disappointed in her when
which
she was clearly getting.
Sure, I think the point there was that she was trying to like they were trying to like characterize Marianne as like this piece of shit, like which she does become very obviously like characterized as just a piece of shit American. But like,
I don't know if they tried to make it out as if she just went down there intentionally to like, and she had walked in on them having sex, like not rapey vibes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All I know is the scene feels super unjustified.
Yeah. That's like bizarre. Completely insane.
It was insane. Just because it's so unjustified, it doesn't fit with what anything else is happening, and then it's never really discussed or brought up again the consequences for her or anyone else. It's just like it's a little bit fucked.
I mean, for being just a setup to set some characters like how the characters are, it's a bit harsh to think this way, I think.
Yeah, if there was consequences, to make, sure, but it's just it's insane.
But it's like
some context that her husband had died or something, Marianne.
Yeah. So, that this seemed the conversation.
Fully justified just seeing a rape and not doing anything. Just
Okay, can we talk about the conversation between the American and the black man? The first conversation, which is this one that you're talking about, because this really like I didn't understand this at all. So
sure.
What
is this? What I think was this the first time that Marianne and the black man Leon met?
That's assumed to be the case. Yeah.
Why? What did they say in the conversation? I can't remember.
So they're just talking, and Leon go like friendly talk, and goes, so how come you are in Iceland right now? You're traveling to Iceland, and she's like, oh well, my husband died, and this is what our honeymoon. Well, this was our honeymoon. So since he can't come, well, I'm here because he's dead. Thank you for the answer, Leon, for the question.
I believe Leon responds by saying, "Oh, too bad." Like it was such a non-response.
Too bad.
The dialogue is a strong point.
Yeah, but I found it really weird. Like the first interaction between these two characters to be like, "Yeah, my husband died, and I'm here alone on a honeymoon."
And just
he was like, okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah,
I don't know.
All right. you do you.
Yeah.
It's just a side note. Also, like that boat that showed up and they all got on. It was the most like the dodgiest looking thing. Like if you
But
had any inkling,
I think we're skipping a couple of important facts things that happened in the movie, which was the first.
Yeah. So essentially,
death.
yeah. So what I guess like briefly summarizing, like basically they're on the boat, they're all goofing off and being stereotypical horrible assholes. The totally like unjustified, inconsequential rape happens, and then the French guy is drunk. Again, stereotype. And he's up on the mast of the ship. The sailor, the captain, who's trying to tell him to get down, is yelling at him, and the French guy falls off the mast.
and
Somehow
before he falls,
grabs a
he goes,
metal
"Ooh la
pole.
la."
Yeah, he says "ooh la la." Yeah, again, so just some more inappropriate bullshit dialogue, and he pulls a metal pole off the side of the mast, and it goes through the captain's heart, and it's like, what are the chances? Like, it's just bizarre as
So
well.
he straight up falls off this like pretty high mast, spears the captain, and doesn't hurt himself at all.
Yeah, he's fine, and he's just hanging out. It's insane.
And then he goes, "Ooh la la."
Yeah.
Like the captain is the first one that dies, and it's just the sweetest guy. He's like, oh, here we have the friendly minke whale, something, and just fucking the spear goes through him.
Which is funny because like he's the actor that played him, Gunnar Hansen, is the guy that played the Leatherface in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the 70s. So there you go.
It's an absolutely huge cast. They've gone.
Yeah. It's like, and he dies in the first like 15 minutes, so it's like, good on you, mate.
They could only afford 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes of Gunn is better than no minutes of Gunn.
Spend their whole budget on 15 minutes of him.
Clearly, yeah.
Not on any plot or like writing or
any writers. Essentially, long story short, he is killed by this French guy. Leon and Marianne, the Americans, try and help him out to no avail. And so essentially, the rapist guy runs off. You never even see him again. It kind of cuts to these hillbilly type characters, these three Icelandic, as mentioned at the start. These these ex-whale fishermen, I suppose, who it kind of sets them up as being inbred. I can't quite tell. I mean, one of them, the kid Siggy, has a hunchback, and the other guy Trigvi, and their mama, who doesn't get a formal name. They're all like whittling away at these bits of wood and they're basically complaining about how the government's preventing them from whaling, and they've got no income anymore, and they sell these wooden whales to tourists, and they hate tourists, and they're just like, wow, like trying to set it up as being this, I don't know, like just pro whaling, I suppose, thing. I can't tell where the film goes with it. It's never really clear any of its messages,
and there's not a whale in sight, so they still haven't seen any whales yet.
No, they've not. But anyway, there's people on the ship basically call out for help, and these hillbilly whalers essentially intercept the call, come over. Trigvi comes across to his little boat and offers to help them back to shore, but instead of bringing them to shore, he brings them back to the hillbilly whalers whaling ship, and this is basically where the rest of the film happens, and it's essentially everyone gets just messed up.
So yeah, it kind of goes from 0 to 100 real quick. So they're all standing on the boat, and then so they're like Ziggy, the inbred son, I guess, of Mama. He's like twitching and like he's just bugging out.
He starts yelling.
Oh yeah.
They say hello, and they tell him to say hello to everyone. He's like, hello, 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 and everyone's just like, what is happening? Like,
yeah, and then he just straight up runs at one of the German ladies and like with a hammer and just clocks her right, and the hammer gets stuck in the middle of her head.
Yeah, it's excessive. It goes from nothing to. I mean, they're obviously trying to like get the shock value of it. And I guess I don't know what you guys thought, but none of the film was really scary per se. It was more just like it's like a slaughterhouse flick. Like it's not the kind of thing where it's actually scary or actually horrific. It's just blood kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just bloodshed and nothing else.
Exactly.
Shoot 'em up type. But
Yeah.
Kind of smack them up.
I guess that's why Gunnar Hansen liked it, wanted to be a part of it, Texas Chainsaw isn't necessarily the most like suspenseful, like psychological film, generally speaking.
I thought it was going more suspenseful. Like I thought they were going to be on the boat for a bit, and then like people were going to start disappearing or something.
Yeah.
But no, they straight up hacked one.
It goes the
in the
slasher
head.
flick way. Yeah.
And then so everyone kind of splits. All the tourist people just run. So and this is one of I don't know if we should go to the segment best kill of the week. This is my nomination.
It's a new segment. Lane with the kill cam.
The Japanese fella who was probably one of my favorite characters because of just some of his iconic lines. Like,
Give us some lines.
Ugly.
What are some of his lines?
Just talking about his wife, ugly, stupid wife.
Yeah,
and then
strong,
he talked about
very strong.
I think he was talking about the German ladies, and he said they're even uglier than the Korean bitches.
Yeah, which was again like they're really trying to sell the racist angle hard. Like everyone on this boat is a filthy racist.
Mm-hmm.
And then as well, he said Endo. He said to her, she was talking to someone else, and he was like, "What did you say to him, you little bitch?"
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he's an all-round stellar guy. So how did he meet his end?
So he tried to just jump off the boat and swim. Now he's quite a rotund fella, so he wasn't swimming all that fast. And so Ziggy's brother, I can't pronounce his name,
the older one,
the older one. He sees him and he runs. So of course this boat has some big old harpoon guns, and he runs over, lines up, and he got surprisingly far given how slow he looked like he was swimming. And then he shoots the harpoon gun, and it's a long shot, and it just skewers him. And then he also like fully reels it in, so he's just hanging off the harpoon at the back of the boat.
Yeah, it's definitely the best scene in the entire film, like bar none. Like that's the scene you watch this for, and then you turn it off because it's the rest of the
exactly. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, there are a couple other nominations. I think they could get close to Kill of the Week, but that was my pick. I think it was pretty iconic.
Agree,
I mean, it's the one that you expect to see, kind of in a way with a harpoon.
Yeah, exactly.
It's either a harpoon against like the wall of the ship and goes through like a couple or three people. And you're like, that should be good also.
This one's another pretty good one. So the Japanese guy's wife.
Oh yeah.
She's hiding with Endo, the girl who.
Oh yeah. No, they're like in the kitchen or something like that. And
so they're kind of hiding together. And meanwhile, Mama is running with like a harpoon or something.
Yes.
And she's running at. Oh yeah, she found one of the other German ladies in a barrel. And so she's charging at her down the corridor, and then Endo pushes the Japanese wife out in front of it as well, so she skewers both of them.
Yeah, it's a 2-for-1.
Like they're in the kitchen. I think it was the two Japanese girls and someone else, maybe the French guy, maybe, and the other Japanese girl, like the wife of the Japanese guy, was like get me something to drink or something like that. And she starts searching and goes like, well, I didn't find anything to drink, but here's how do you call it? The thing that you can shoot and it does light in the air like a firework.
A flare gun. Yeah.
A
flare gun, yeah. Well, I didn't find alcohol, but there's a flare gun. And she was like, well, we can do something with this.
And that was Uri's flare gun mention of the week.
Yeah. Stay tuned next week for the flare gun.
I'm pretty sure that happened earlier on, my dude. I think that was on the other boat.
Yeah, because the Japanese guy was still living there. I think. Yeah, that was when he called him. He was like, "What did you say?
Exactly.
You ugly little bitch."
Before this other kill as well, the double skewer. The Endo makes a statement to the woman as they're hiding away from the mama. She says to the woman, "Oh yeah, your dad was a real kamikaze," and essentially sets her up to be a bomb, right? Like she puts lighter fluid in a bag and pushes her out the door, who then gets skewered, and then the whole three of them get absolutely barbecued when when the Japanese
Incinerated.
wife essentially lights the cigarette lighter. The setup isn't the worst part. It's more just like the fact that Endo even says that your dad was a kamikaze. Like
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
this entire film is littered with this stuff. Like it's insane.
So Mama she's still alive, barely, but she's absolutely incinerated. And Ziggy.
Yes.
So does Ziggy find her pretty shortly after, or is that a bit later on?
No, I think it's just right after. I think.
Yeah, and he sees her on the ground, and he starts so her face is basically just goo.
Oh.
And he starts touching her face, and bits come off it. That was uncomfortable.
Yeah, that was pretty bold. Yeah. It's definitely like the rest of the film. It just goes straight for gore as its go-to, and that was pretty gross. I will admit.
And then, so what's happening with our other folk?
The Icelandic girl, the main character. She's in like kind of a dungeon with Ziggy. Yeah.
Ziggy like hangs her from these chains, and he's like putting this weird orange.
Oh yeah.
Sauce on her.
I don't know what it is. It's like some barbecue sauce or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and like wrapping like some seaweed looking stuff around her, and like there's some just pours a bunch of shit over her basically, and it's just I don't know what was really happening.
Yeah, there was some inference that he was doing it to please the Lord or something, and he was trying to do something like a sacrifice or to fix his hump. The whole thing was trying to like justify his existence of him being a humpback and the whole inbred angle, but this Lord like character doesn't even come up ever, and it's like it kind of doesn't go anywhere. And it's almost just an excuse for the Annette, the woman who was just like assaulted by the other guy on the boat, to then get strapped up and felt up by another creepy weirdo. Like she just gets the absolute shitty end of the stick the entire film. Yeah, it's her treatment is insane. Like yeah,
even by the people who are like just other tourists.
Exactly. Endo does manage to escape off the boat with the French guy, and they manage to basically make their way off on a sort of dinghy that's left, leaving Annette, Leon, and Marianne to kind of fend for themselves since everyone else has been killed off pretty quick.
I think the French guy promises her money if she doesn't go back or something, right?
Yeah. He pulls some French nonsense.
And he gives another ooh la la.
Yeah. For now, it's this strange like romance thing between Marianne and Leon where she attaches herself to him because he's taking care of her.
He came out of nowhere.
So because she like starts complaining, she's like, I can't believe this is happening, not on my trip, not on my honeymoon.
Yeah,
and she's
exactly.
Like, being a pretty little like self-entitled American, which is like they're trying to betray her like that. And then out of nowhere, when like Leon and Marianne are kind of hiding, they have this conversation, and she like confesses her feelings for him, having known the guy for what, like it's getting dark now, so they've been out on the sea for like 8 hours. Confesses her love, and she's like, I really like you. And he just looks at her like, she said something bizarre, and she's like, oh, what did I do? What did I do wrong? And he's just like, you didn't do anything wrong. It's just that I'm gay, which is totally fair. Like, that's fair enough. He can be gay.
Oh, yeah.
But then the reaction, the back and forth from then onwards is just insane. Like, she just starts whining, like, why didn't you tell me? How could you do this to me? And then, so Leon delivers the absolute line. I had to write this whole thing down. It's a pretty stellar quote. He says, he sort of grabs her shoulders, and he just looks at her dead in the eyes. And he says, I might be disgusting to you, but this disgusting faggot here is the only hope your tight Bible belt whipped church going ass has of getting out of this alive. Which is just, it is the epitome of like stereotypical like token black character line you can get in a film, and the delivery is like spot on, like token black character line. It is admittedly really, it's like fucking hilarious. Like you just don't expect this guy. It's not dropping one-liners. All of a sudden, he just drops his perfect one-liner. It's the whole scene is insane.
Speaking of other like iconic lines in this movie, there's one. I think it's one of the first people who's murdered. He's like, I'm a friend of nature. You can't do this.
Yeah.
You remember that?
There's some the dialogue in this. You don't even know where they're going with it half the time.
Like it's like, how is that going to stop you getting murdered?
I know.
I'm a friend of nature.
It's funny because the tourists all seem like these like caricatures but then the Icelandic, like the whale hunters, they almost seem like the main fella, Tryggvi, who's the guy that like fetched all the tourists in the other boat and brought them back to the whalers boat. He's the one that seems like the most well put together character, almost. Like the actor seems to do the best job, and he kind of is somewhat less of a stereotype. And he's obviously like a mass murdering, slaughtering, crazy guy, but I don't know. There's more. He seems sort of more interesting than like I'd say 95% of the characters here.
And he also seems more level-headed than most of the characters.
He does, right? Yes. Like, how can a crazy murderer seem more level-headed than these people? But he does. Like, even Leon at times seems erratic. It's just probably just poor writing. But like, yeah, like that random one-liner, and then I don't know. It's bizarre.
And meanwhile, we see Endo and the French guy. Kind of, they get to shore somewhere.
Yeah.
I think
they
this
get
is
to
kind
a
of
lighthouse. Yeah, it doesn't say exactly where, but it's
And they're climbing the rocks, and the French guy is ooh la la,
God, ooh la la, sacre bleu, you fucking bitch, he goes, and then just stops.
Yeah, all classic stereotypical French lines. Like even the characters are stereotypes, and they all play into it. It's
and he's being so rude to Endo, who like saved his life.
Exactly.
And they get into this lighthouse, and who would have thunk it? The cripple from earlier is just chilling in this lighthouse.
Yeah, Anton, the guy that was pretending to be a cripple, he's in the lighthouse, and he kind of takes them in.
Endo kind of sees some of these photos.
Yeah.
And she realizes, I think she clocks that he is somehow connected to the people on the boat.
I believe it's meant to be that, he's related to them, because I mean, it's kind of inferred at the start because he was selling the wooden whales.
Yeah, exactly.
Other whalers were crafted
in
one of the scenes. Yeah.
Oh, so the French guy went up to take a piss.
Yeah.
And then you see Anton just follow him straight away. Yeah, and the French guy comes down bleeding. He's like bleeding, right? And this is another nomination for Kill of the Week.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He starts running away. And Anton, so he stopped acting or crippled, and he just like sidearm tosses an axe, and it just clean removes the French guy's head. Like his head disappears. It's not like it sticks in; it just cuts clean through a little hand axe, and he just launches it like a frisbee, and his head is
pretty rewarding.
It's gone.
Then Endo promises Anton, the guy from the lighthouse, like a lot of money. Where does this money come from? From the French guy?
I think it's just a lie. I think she was basically trying to, because she knew that the whalers were, that the guy was selling the whale. The whale.
I thought somehow because the Japanese couple were obviously very rich. Maybe because they were dead, she had access to some sort of.
That's true, and it is
but it didn't
that
make
she
it
somehow
clear
escapes with money, or she basically impersonates the woman she was working for, the Japanese wife.
But so I don't know if this is the plan
going on. Oh, another contender though for your kill of the week, Liam, is when Marianne is in the bridge and Siggy manages to find.
See, I wasn't sure because she doesn't fully finish him here, so I wasn't sure if it really counted. But this was.
It's definitely a solid line.
I wrote down what she said because this was.
Same. Do you want to say? Because she was stuck in there and Siggy's there, and she basically finds a flare gun in the bridge. Do you want to describe this one?
Yeah, so he's kind of at the door trying to get in, and then she finds the flare. She pulls it out, and she's like, "Hey, goodbye, creep," and then completely misses the shot.
Completely misses him.
The flare flies past his head, and then and then
he says, "Mama says this is only for emergencies." So he's obviously being like told not to use it, and then she just throws down this absolute line.
And then she cocks the gun and then shoots him in the eye, and she's like, "I call this an emergency."
Yeah. It's a solid line. Yeah. Well, essentially, it kind of boils down to then Marianne and Annette kind of find the boat, and they jump on, and Leon goes to essentially try to deal with the rest of the of Tryggvi and the rest of the whale hunters, and Marianne is basically being like, "No, we're going to go. Like, I don't want to wait. And Leon's like, "You guys should go." And that's like, "Hold on, like Leon trying to help us here." And again, like characterizing Marianne as just this super selfish American. They essentially do, end up on the boat and the little blow up escape boat, and they sail off into the night. And Leon essentially is ends up dealing with Trygve, which is also like a pretty. I didn't mind it, but it was very, again, it's like they're kind of throwing so many messages into this film, where essentially you got to the point where there was a showdown between Trygve and Leon, and the Coast Guard had managed to come across the old whale watching ship, and they've basically got Leon in their sights, and Leon's managed to like get this gun that Trygve had off of him. So Leon's got the whale, the whale hunter, the killer, in his sights, and the Coast Guard does, and they're kind of yelling in Icelandic. But essentially, it turns out that they kind of see Leon as this black dude and decide that since he has the gun and since he's not responding to the Icelandic being able to
Trygve was kneeling right in front of him, so he looks a lot like the victim in that scenario.
And he was the one that could, he understands Icelandic, so he could hear.
Yeah, so they were telling him to drop the gun, so he could understand. Yeah,
they basically shoot Leon, thinking he's the threat, and he then basically manages somehow to shoot Trygve on his way down, who then gets killed point blank as well. So they're both dead.
Yeah, it's so funny how they're like, oh, we've got to shoot him, otherwise he's going to execute the guy who's on his knees. He was actually the bad guy, but they didn't know. And on shooting him, he pulls the trigger, and his head just turns into mist. Like
it does. It does. It's a real Tarantino style, like
cool. It just explodes.
Yeah.
And then so everyone's dead. And so meanwhile, Marianne and Annette are floating, and they're floating along, and then they either like something surfaces near them, and they're like, oh, it's a whale. And then it turns out it's an orca, so it's a killer whale.
Yes.
And what happened? What are they arguing about?
Yeah,
they're arguing over where.
And Marianne wants to shoot it, and so just knocks it out of Annette's hands, which is the stupidest shit I've ever seen.
She's arguing with her over it. Which, again, they're really like characterizing it to the point where it's like, how has Marianne made it this far in life, let alone like,
because she is the worst person ever to have existed.
Apart from the French guy. The French guy is
apart from the French,
Oh, I know he was just drunk, And
no, I think he was just French. That's the thing.
Well, he somehow drunkenly accidentally killed
the captain,
the sailor. He laughed when someone he thought was disabled got fucking smacked in the face, and he tried to sexually assault that woman after she saved his life. It's like, he is a piece of shit as well. Like, the American woman just tried to really play her up as selfish, but the French guy is pretty much garbage as well, I'd say.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just joking. It is two of the most awful people created in any show or movie.
But it's like over the top though. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah. And then basically, so Marianne pushes Annette out of this little boat, and you think the killer whale is going to get her, but instead it just pulls the little boat that Marianne's in down into the water, so she just disappears.
Yeah.
And you're like, good riddance.
Yeah.
And then kind of floating there. And do we ever find out if she lives? Because she's just floating in the water.
That's the end, right? So essentially, the final scenes are you cut to the shot of the airport where you see the car where Endo escaped with Anton from the lighthouse.
Oh,
and you see that Anton's being killed again.
Did he have chopsticks in his head?
Chopsticks, chopsticks.
Yeah, yeah. She killed him with chopsticks just to
stick him in the skull,
take away some of the stereotypical
And then there's a shot of Endo on the plane leaving Iceland. And the waitress is the flight attendant. Sorry, she's essentially offering Endo food, and Endo responds when the woman basically uses the rich Japanese wife's name. I can't remember what it is, but she basically uses the wife's identity to escape. And so Endo is really the only person that ever escapes, because then there's a shot of her plane flying over the ocean where Annette is, and Annette's just floating there in the ocean, and it kind of just fades to black, inferring that Annette died. I guess, I don't know.
Alive at this point, and it's daytime again, so she's been floating for hours.
And it's Iceland.
In Iceland, which is not cold at all.
I thought it was
especially the water.
I thought it showed her like passing out at the end. I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it kind of, for some reason I felt like it kind of wanted you to think she was going to live. I was like, there's no chance. She would have been dead probably within an hour, floating out there in the middle of the night. Yeah.
I thought it implied that she was dead, but I don't know.
Maybe.
Well, yeah. So I mean, essentially, that's the crux of it, right? Like the only person that gets out, in my opinion, is Endo ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. It's kind of the feeling that I got after watching the movie.
Yeah.
Like, apart from, whoa, what a movie.
Yeah,
What an absolute thing I just watched. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you guys rate it
Oh.
out of 10?
Out of 5 harpooned Japanese tourists.
Yeah.
Honestly, it depends how you want to see it, right? Like as an entertaining, like goofy film, I mean, I'd probably give it like a 3.5 as just a pure goof off. But the fact that it's got so much like baggage and it kind of seems like it's trying to be pro whaling or say something, but it doesn't make sense. It almost makes it harder to like it. So I feel like I'm gonna give this a solid two harpoon Japanese tourists out of 5.
I'm not really sure. There's a lot of things that can be said. Like I didn't. So what do you can take away from this? Like the dialogue. Well, the dialogue. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it was kind of funny at times. You got a little chuckle out of it. I think that when I was looking for the movie, somewhere it was in the section of horror comedy. So
yeah,
that makes it.
That makes a bit more sense.
I've seen that as well, but I kind of can't tell if that's unintentional.
Intentional or not.
Yeah, they made it as a horror, and then it just ended up sliding towards the comedy section because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it falls right in the middle, like a 3, because there's a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, see, so for me, the positives were like it was entertaining. Like I did enjoy watching it. There was a lot of iconic lines and iconic, deaths. But I think they wasted too much time trying to develop any semblance like of a plot. They should have just gone all out on the kind of memes and the stupid goofy lines, because that was where it was good. When they tried too hard to make it like meaningful was where it was just so bad.
It was. And I mean, I don't know if you noted it, it's the runtime is 90 minutes and it takes them half an hour second shift when the massacre happens.
I don't mind the slow start because it kind of started going bang 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 after that, but I feel like the end dragged on if anything. So it's okay to build up slow, because it kind of did like develop the characters, I guess. Like you kind of were meeting all of them and showing them weird interactions and
exactly
how they were kind of all pretty much bad people.
So
for me, if you'd asked me like right when I finished watching it, I was like, oh, this is 4 ulalas out of 5. Because I was like, oh, this was entertaining. Like it was pretty funny. There was some really dumb, goofy shit, but it was entertaining. But then, like you said, the more you think about it and analyze it, the like shittier you realize it is.
Yeah, maybe it's not what these movies are meant to. Analyzing is not what this movie is aiming for. People analyzing.
Because it seemed like it was trying to be saying something, but it just is so goofy that it doesn't work. So if you see
exactly.
a serious horror film that's saying to say something, it's like, nope, not worth my time.
Yeah.
What do you think ultimately, Liam?
I guess I'd settle on maybe 3 Gimp Mask wearing heavy metal bands. 5.
Yeah, no, it's a strong rating. All right,
absolutely 3.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there you have it. It's definitely a film, and we've definitely watched it. Yeah. If you guys want to check this out, it's definitely not the easiest thing to track down. We used 100% legal methods,
Always,
which I think is the only way to do it.
What are we, terrorists now? What? No.
Yeah. What are we? What are we? Some kind of whale hunters out of work in Iceland?
Yeah. If you're gonna watch it, I'd watch it with people, like by yourself.
Oh yeah.
By yourself, it's not worth your time.
It's a bit like kind of big face palms at times if you're watching.
You have to have someone else to talk about it with.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that about wraps us up for this week, my boys. This has been the Spooktacular Spook spookers.
Spooky Boiz Spectacular.
Spooky Boiz Spectacular. So next week, essentially, will be another film on our radar, and it's going to be a film from Uruguay called La Casa Muda. And
Casa Muda,
yes. Hijo de puta.
Liam doesn't know any Spanish, but obviously Uri does, so we're going to get some absolutely interesting lines there. But yeah, look, you guys can tell your friends, get involved.
Yes, please.
Check out our absolute Instagram for what our reviews, our final scores, and any upcoming films we're going to review. But I guess for now, we shall say ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
So, yeah.
Ooh la la.